This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, all of you. So we are almost at the end of the microbiology chapters. Now we are going in a syndromic base. Everything you all know, but a different approach as you approach in the medicine subjects or your third year subjects. Of course, the present CBME which have been introduced this year speaks that from the beginning we need to go syndromic wise. Whereas in microbiology till now what we are following is we discuss in detail about all the organisms, all the infectious organisms. Later we try to explain you, correlate things syndromically. But now present CPME speaks that from the beginning you need to go in a syndromic wise. Whatever we go in the reverse side or on the proper side, the ultimate thing is same. So we have read in detail about the organisms. We are going one by one syndrome. Already 3 or 4 syndromes have been over. Now we are discussing about one of the other most common infectious syndrome, that is sexually transmitted diseases. Sexually transmitted diseases, previously a very neglected topic, but now much importance have been given to this topic also, because the infectious organism which are causing this disease, the way how it is transmitted, based on that it has been classified, and that these infections cannot be neglected. Most of the time they are asymptomatic infections, so most of the time they are not treated, especially in the females, in the reproductive age group. When during their pregnancy or delivery they may land up into very serious complications, and these reproductive age group into women may also face lot number of problems like infertility and other major problems. So detection of these diseases and treatment at a proper time is very important. And one more thing, if you detect in one partner, the other partner should invariably be evaluated for same disease in complete to see where is the source, and both of them should be treated, then only the treatment is complete. This is which is different from other syndromic management. So once you detect the disease in one partner, see that you try to detect the evaluate the other partner, not that they'll be suffering compulsorily, but you need to evaluate them completely. If they are suffering, then you need to treat them completely. So introduction, a group of communicable diseases that are transmitted predominantly by sexual route. A simple way of classification, a simple definition is that which are based on their transmission route. You can see these genital organs, both upper and lower genital organs are there. Lower genital organs involvement is the one most commonly seen in the initial stages. Later they may move on to the upper genital tract infections also. Here you need to know the anatomy also, as you see in the kidney, urinary bladder and all. From the bladder the infection may pass on to the kidneys. The infection of the kidneys is more dangerous when compared to the bladder. Here also you can see infection of the lower genital tract are less serious when compared to the upper genital tract infections. See from here cervix and all, they may move up to the uterus, fallopian tubes and uterus. Fallopian tube, uterus and ovary also can be infected, where the complications are very high. So here also you can see from here they may move on to the prostate and lead to the infertility. So these problems, though more common in case of females, they are males are also equally affected. So basic facts, if you come to see, young people, especially in the reproductive age group, are becoming major infected with the STDs, often cause no immediate symptoms. Most of the time, that one I was telling, most of the time they are asymptomatic. People may pass disease to their sex partners without even knowing them. So equally, they may pass on. STDs can be passed from the mother to her baby during delivery or after the baby's birth. During prenatal or postnatal period, they may transfer. This is another major problem. So babies may suffer very serious infection. You can see ophthalma neonatum or chlamydia trachomatis infection easily transmitted to the babies. So sometimes congenital abnormalities can also be there. HIV, one of the sexually transmitted disease, can also be very dangerous to the baby. So these are some of the examples which I'm telling. Syphilis also is there. That also Treponema pallidum, which can easily cause congenital abnormalities. So STDs can cause sterility and death. So that is also the ultimate problem. Sterility and death. Risk factors: multiple sexual partners, unprotected sex, drug or alcohol abuse. All these increase the risk of sexually transmitted diseases. So roots, they may be transmitted in homosexuals or heterosexuals. In fact, if you go back to the history, HIV was initially detected in the homosexual individuals only, with the increase in one of the carcinoma, that is Kaposi sarcoma carcinoma, which is caused by herpes. So introduction of organisms to the genital tract by instrumentation, that can be the possibility. Presence of foreign body or irritation. Why foreign body, you may ask? Here you may take to control the birth, we use to have a gap between two pregnancies, two deliveries, they use intrauterine devices, and sometimes these intrauterine devices can be infected and they may lead to the infection. Intrauterine or intranatal transmission to the infant from the mother. In detail, we'll be studying as we move on. So all these are some of the high-risk persons or some of the ways how the pelvic inflammatory disease or sexually transmitted infections can be dangerous. So STs, sexually transmitted infections, don't care about your age, relationship status, sexual orientation or gender. So anybody, anytime can be infected. Only the previous slide says homo, hetero, everybody can be infected. So various microorganisms are there which can cause the infection. One way of the classification is etiological classification. Another way of classification is clinical classification. Both I will be discussing in brief. So etiological classification. So see, if you have read all these organisms, but you need to know which organisms cause what. Because one organism can cause multiple syndromes or multiple infections. For example, urinary tract infection can be caused by number of organisms. If you take Escherichia coli, it can cause urinary tract infection also, it can cause septicemia also, it can cause diarrhea also, it can cause bacteremia also, or it can also cause skin or wound infection. Similarly, you should know, so we will now be read organism wise. Now we will be dealing about the syndromic wise. Now I will be discussing only those organisms which will be causing sexually transmitted disease. Of course, this table, don't think it's complete. It's just a introductory part of the major organisms which cause the sexually transmitted disease. Of course, this still can this can be filled up still up to a large extent. So what are the organism wise? If I am giving bacterial, viral, fungal, parasitic. So any of these organisms can be caused. Bacterial, most common bacterial organism is Treponema pallidum, which causes syphilis. And the syphilis, as you all know, is not a simple disease. It can be primary, tertiary, secondary and tertiary syphilis. Congenital syphilis have also been noted. So you are damaging your baby also. So these infections, these bacterial infections, if identified in the early stages, we have good treatment. So identification is a major part in case of sexually transmitted disease, because most of the time they are asymptomatic and the individual does not approach you. They approach you when the patient is already in a serious condition. Already in a damage has already taken place. Apart from that, syphilis, next Neisseria gonorrhea. This is also a major cause caused by gonococci. Chlamydia trachomatis, lymphogranuloma venereum, the three L1, L2, L3, all the can cause the disease. Gardnerella vaginalis, Haemophilus ducreyi. You all know there are two differences. Haemophilus ducreyi causes painful canker, chancroid and chancroid. So that two differences. Usually the lesion caused by syphilis or Treponema pallidum is painless, that is chancre, whereas chancroid that caused by Haemophilus ducreyi is painful. So if there is a pain, it's a good sign, because at least for the pain, the patient approaches the doctor so that they can be evaluated and treated early. Whereas if you take in the syphilis primary stage, chancre will be there, that will be painless, and the patient neglects at that stage. Most of the patients, 80 to 90% neglect, and they may land up into secondary and tertiary stage without treatment. So Klebsiella granulomatous, ureaplasma and mycoplasma. These are some of the bacterial organisms which can cause the sexually transmitted disease, of which the initial organisms are very important, including your mycoplasma. Viral organisms, you can see herpes simplex virus 1 and 2, of which 2 is more sexually transmitted disease, and more lesions are due to HSV2 when compared to the HSV1. Very rarely HSV1 can cause the lesions below the abdomen. Cytomegalovirus, this also can cause congenital infections because it can be easily transmitted to the fetus. Human papillomavirus, HIV, hepatitis B virus, molluscum contagiosum. All these are viral agents. Fungal Candida albicans. So Candida, again you need to remember one thing. Candida is a normal flora which are present in the human body. 2 or 3 sites it is present. Of one site is in the females, it can present as a in the vagina. It is normally present. So you need to differentiate whether this Candida is a normal flora or a pathogenic flora. When our immune system goes down, even our normal flora can become pathogenic. So that 2 points should be kept in mind before you are going for the laboratory diagnosis, before you feel that your Candida is a pathogen or not. Parasitic organisms like Trichomonas vaginalis, which you have studied there, Sarcoptes cavis and Pityriasis pubis. These also very rarely can be sexually transmitted, can cause very serious diseases. So this is a little bit about the organism wise. You can see herpes, how much million, 500 million people living with the genital herpes are there, especially herpes simplex virus 2. You can see chlamydia trachomatis is one of the major cause. Apart, this is syphilis, Treponema palladium, which can be cured with antibiotics. See, most of them, all this chlamydia and all can be cured with antibiotics. So treatment is very important. Both partners is important. So you need, if treatment is good, then we need to go back to the diagnosis. So diagnosis is very important. You can see, come back to the HIV infection. So many people are living with HIV. But one thing is HIV, though once we get the HIV, there is no effective cure, but still we can prolong the life of the individual. And also if the lady is a pregnant one, you can avoid transmission of infection with to the baby. And there are good antiretroviral drugs which can decrease the viral load during pregnancy, so that you increase the CD4 count and you prevent transmission to the baby. Apart from that, if you try to identify one partner, if you try to see the other partner and investigate if the partner is not suffering, then you can educate them and counsel them the importance to avoid HIV transmission to other people also. So gonorrhea is another one, that also you have a very good treatment. So you need to have proper diagnosis for that also. A good source of we have an antibiotic course of 7 days that can be completely useful. Trichomonas vaginalis is also another one, that also you can have a treatment for the parasitic. So anti-parasitic drugs are there which can be treatable. So you need to identify them. So what are the clinical way? This is, I told, etiological classification based upon the organisms they cause and bears which bacterial, viral and all. That is one type of classification of sexually transmitted disease. Another classification is by clinical presentation. This clinical presentation, you can see, they may be most of the time, you can see most of the time, as I have been repeating from the beginning, most of the time there will be asymptomatic infections. They be asymptomatic. So most of the time. Apart from that, some may present with genital ulcers, some may present with genital discharge, sometimes no genital lesions, only some systemic manifestations can be there, that is lower abdominal pain and fever. So these are the different ways how they classify. Depending upon this classification also, the organisms we can identify or suspect. So clinically, lower genital tract infections are asymptomatic, serve as these asymptomatic infections are more dangerous when compared to the other type of infections because they serve as the reservoirs of infection and they can transmit the infection to their partner. In the females, they can lead to serious sequelae, that is pelvic inflammatory disease or infertility. So Without their knowledge, they may serve as a source. They may transmit their infection from the lower genital tract to the upper genital tract, and as a result of which they may upper genital infections may be serious, and they may lead to infertility, salpingitis, and all can be there. So vaginitis, cervicitis, anorectal lesions, and bartholinitis. These are some of the infectious disease. Infections of the reproductive organs like upper tract infections. This one I was telling. Most of the time, these asymptomatic infections, if they heal by themselves, it is good. But the infection continues, and patient may land up, and the infection is by the ascending route. It will transfer. It will be transported. These organisms will be transported by ascending route to the upper genital reproductive organs. As a result of which upper genital organs are infected, leading to very serious complications. At that time, they may present with infertility or abscesses, which becomes very difficult to treat. So these cervical microorganisms travel upwards to endometrium, leading to endometritis. Most of the time, endometrial infection and salpingeal infections lead to infertility. Other pelvic structures like localized or generalized peritonitis may be there, or abscess of the ovaries. See, these are all very important organisms, especially for the reproductive age group. At this point of time, if these organisms are, these organs are infected, and you don't detect at a proper time, at that time, these organs might be damaged, and that may lead to sterility or infertility in these patients. So pelvic inflammatory disease is a common word which looks very simple, but it is very dangerous, especially in the long term. So intermittent abdominal pain can be there, tenderness, vaginal discharge might be there, dysuria may be there, so systemic symptoms like fever, weight loss, headache, all are non-specific symptoms, so most of the time they are neglected. Complications, permanent scarring of the fallopian tubes leading to infertility. So that is one part. Next, genital ulcers. Some patients might present with genital ulcers. Syphilis, you can see harsh chancre, but most of the time it is a painless lesion. Very few people move to the doctor. Most of the time they neglect because it's painless. Lymphogranuloma venereum caused by chlamydia, donoveniasis. About lymphogranuloma venereum, anyhow, it's a painful ulcer that also they usually take the help of a doctor, which is very good because that can be treated in the early stages. Painful ulcers, chancroid, Haemophilus ducreyi, and herpes genital is HSV 2 and 1. These are the ones which cause pain. So all these are few genital ulcers, and all these I would like to tell you that are treatable. So detection at the early stages is very important. It just draws one which you have already studied, a comparative one. I just put up most common sexually transmitted diseases producing ulcers, a comparative study. Incubation period of syphilis, you can see a very long, 9 to 90 days is there. Herpes, 2 to 7 days. Chancroid, 1 to 14 days, that is caused by Haemophilus ducreyi. Lymphogranuloma venereum, 3 days to 6 weeks. Donoveniasis, 1 to 4 weeks. Genital ulcer, usually syphilis, is painless, indurated, and single. See, based on your clinical examination history also, you can classify or you can suspect which type of disease the patient is suffering from. Herpes, you can see multiple and painful ulcers are there. One more point about herpes is usually apart from the genital lesions, they may present with some other lesion somewhere in the body also. So that also can be helpful for your diagnosis. Chancroid, painful, soft, single or multiple lesions. Lymphogranuloma venereum, painless lesions. Donoveniasis, painless, beefy, red ulcer is seen. So based on the clinical findings also, based on history, one part. First one is incubation period. So based on history, second genital ulcer based upon your examination. Lymphadenopathy, painless, moderate swelling, no bubo. Whereas herpes, absence or moderate swelling is there. Chancroid, painful, soft, marked swelling leads to bubo formation. Lymphogranuloma venereum, painful and soft. Donoveniasis, usually lymphadenopathy is absent. Pseudobubo may be present due to subcutaneous swelling. So these are some of the clinical findings or your on examination you can try to classify so that you can go for the specific laboratory test than advising all the laboratory test for the patient. Next, after genital ulcer, genital discharge is another common feature how the patient presents with. Genital discharge may be urethral, cervical, vaginal discharge anyway. Purulent watery discharge usually go for bacteria. Thick white discharge go in favor of candida, that is fungal infection. Frothy discharge go in favor of trichomoniasis. See, the history again, your history is very important and your clinical examination. The type of discharge also gives a clue for your to the proper diagnosis. Genital urethral discharge gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is most common, that is Neisseria gonorrhea, caused by Neisseria gonorrhea. Apart from that, so only in the previous days they have divided is that caused by gonococci, that is gonococcal urethritis, and that caused by non-gonococcal urethritis, that is other organisms. In fact, non-gonococcal urethritis with the control of gonorrhea in the present world, now non-gonococcal urethritis have increased in their incidence. This non-gonococcal urethritis is also a 4 marks and 2 marks question for you. So this can be caused by chlamydia trachomatis. You can see apart from gonorrhea, other causes are there. Chlamydia trachomatis, ureaplasma urolyticum, mycoplasma genitalium, mycoplasma hominis, acinetobacter, bacteroids, candida albicans, that is vaginitis, balanitis, trichomonas vaginalis, and herpes simplex virus. Here you can see here not only bacterial agents, have included some of the viral and fungal agents also. So initially previous years gonococci was the most important cause of urethritis. So only gonococcal and non-gonococcal urethritis. In that list you can include candida, trichomonas, and herpes also. Vaginal discharge is another way of clinical presentation. Vulvovaginal candidiasis, that is candida albicans. Already I have explained whitish discharge go in favor of candida. Non-albicans candida species are also increasing in the incidence. In fact, in the foreign countries, non-albicans species are more when compared to candida albicans. In India, still candida albicans incidence is high. Bacterial vaginosis, bacteroid species Gardnerella vaginalis, Mycoplasma hominis, and Moblincus, which is a gram-negative anaerobic curved bacilli. Trichomonas vaginalis caused by Trichomonas vaginalis. So urethritis, I have already explained in detail about this. I'll move on. Genital warts, Condyloma acuminata, human papilloma virus. So genital warts is another way of presentation which is caused by human papilloma virus. No genital lesions, but only systemic manifestations. These also one type of sexual transmitted disease, AIDS, that is caused by HIV 1 and 2, hepatitis B virus, and HCV virus. So here you can see most of the time, though some may present with local lesions, but most of the time local lesions are absent. They usually present with systemic manifestations when we identify, or most of the time they are in the asymptomatic stage. They would have been identified for some other reason. Miscellaneous like Campylobacter species, group B, Streptococci, human herpes virus 5, molluscum contagiosum, Giardia lamblia, and Entamoeba histolytica can also be causes of sexually transmitted diseases. You may ask, how come Giardia lamblia, which is an intestinal one, Entamoeba histolytica occurs? There are some type of sexual practices which can promote this, like anogenital or oral anal type of activities that can lead to these infections also. So, but they're very rare. So, I've just included them in the miscellaneous causes. So, bacterial vaginosis is one term which is another important like pelvic inflammatory disease, which you need to know, especially in the females. Syndrome characterized by increased homogeneous white discharge from vagina, malodor, often described as rotten fishy smell. Most of the time, if you ask a proper history, your patient itself will give a proper history that they have a white discharge and they have a malodor, often described as rotten fishy smell. Infections after gynecological surgery. I'll explain in detail a little bit about bacterial vaginosis in the future slides. So apart from this, there can be infections of the, one second, I'll just move on. So infections after gynecological surgery is also very common, especially following hysterectomy, pelvic cellulitis or abscesses. So proper prophylactic antibiotic course should be given after the surgery, and proper suturing and follow-up of the wound also is required, or else it may lead to pelvic cellulitis or abscess formation. This abscess formation might be in the lower genital tract infection, or they may move up to the upper genital tract infection and cause damage. Major pathogens here will be usually the normal flora organisms which are present in the genital tract, that is aerobic gram-positive cocci, gram-negative bacilli, anaerobes like Streptococcus species, and genital mycoplasmas. These are the major organisms, because after surgery they may enter the body and they may cause the infection. So we need to see that and control it at the proper time. Infections associated with pregnancy. So I've already told that pregnancy is one part where the infection should be controlled in a proper way, or else that might lead to very serious complications. Especially the damage to the baby may be very bad. Some congenital infections can be there, like syphilis, herpes and all can cause, or during birth and all HIV can be transmitted to the infant. So that all that should be prevented. Prenatal, only just one slide I put up. Prenatal hematogenicity or ascending genital tract routes of infections are very common. Chorioamnionitis is one thing which is a word which has chorioamniotic fluid. You all know that chorioamniotic fluid, our amniotic fluid is very important, which will be the baby will be floating in the amniotic fluid, and this amniotic fluid nourishes the baby. So if the infection of these amniotic fluid occurs, then there is a damage to the baby that may be very simple to a very serious infection. Infection which might be life-threatening to the baby and also the mother. See, here two lives are concerned. This infection might be damaging both to the mother and baby. So infection of the uterus and its contents during pregnancy. Organisms spread from vagina or cervix after premature or prolonged rupture of membranes or during labor. So these organisms are usually, see, normally organisms are present in our genital tract. These themselves can be damaging. Anaerobic bacteria, genital mycoplasms, group B streptococci and Escherichia coli. These are the common. See, these are all normal organisms which are present as a normal flora. They themselves can be dangerous in this case. So postpartum transmission of infection can also occur to the babies. That also should be controlled. Complications, infertility. Apart from infertility, we have discussed a lot about infertility. Ectopic pregnancy is another damaging one. Ectopic pregnancy, which if not detected, of course, now with the advent of ultrasound, and that now ultrasound is examination is done at the earliest whenever the pregnancy has detected. Most of the ectopic pregnancies are detected in the early stages, and abortion is carried out so that the rupture does not occur. But in the previous years, it was not like that. So pelvic inflammatory disease itself may promote ectopic pregnancies that might be damaging if not detected at the earlier stage. A rupture of the, you can see this is the fetus in the fallopian tube. Rupture of the fetus, rupture of the fetus and the fallopian tube, leading to damage to the fallopian tube. This fallopian tube is lost. Apart from that, the ruptured fluid might pass on to the peritoneum and surrounding uterus, everything. All these organs can be infected. So whole of the abdominal organs can be infected. So it is very dangerous one. Whereas these chronic pelvic inflammatory disease itself can promote ectopic pregnancy. So treating at the earlier stages is very important. Premature labor or abortion, pelvic inflammatory disease and cervical carcinoma. So laboratory diagnosis is very important to identify the disease and treat, because large number of organisms, as we have discussed previously, can cause the pelvic inflammatory diseases. Microscopy, isolation, serology, molecular diagnosis and skin test. Laboratory diagnosis of each organism you have dealt in detail in the previous chapters as we moved on to the organisms, but now little bit just a gross idea I will give about each organism. So microscopy, you can see direct microscopy, that is with a compound microscope you can try to see Trichomonas vaginalis or Chlamydia trachomatis. Of course, Chlamydia trachomatis intranuclear bodies, intracytoplasmic bodies can be seen, but it's very difficult. Other way of diagnosis like serology is more important, Chlamydia trachomatis, whereas Trichomonas vaginalis, which is a protozoan species where you try to detect the trophocytes, still the wet mount examination of that is very important. Later I'll be discussing that. Dark ground or phase contrast microscopy can be useful for Treponema palladium organisms, that is identification of the syphilis, which still is most commonly used where there is dark ground microscopy. Of course, if we not available, serological tests, both confirmatory and non-confirmatory tests, screening tests, both are there like VRDL and all. As we move on, I'll discuss electron microscopy, herpes genitalis, which is not very commonly used. Staining techniques like Wright Giemsa stain and Gram staining. Of course, Gram staining is more commonly used for Haemophilus ducrei and Neisseria gonorrhea. Neisseria gonorrhea, beautiful paste, kidney shaped one, which can be seen in the slide in the along with the pus cells or neutrophils, whatever we call, but pus cell is a dead neutrophil which can be easily seen in the Gram stain. And these intranuclear these cells may be present, these gonococci may be present intracellularly or extracellularly. Beautiful paste can be seen by Gram stain, Gram negative organisms. So wet mount trichomoniasis and candida both can be used. You can see pus cells, motile trophocytes of trichomonas can be seen. Yeast cells and pseudohyphae. Pseudohyphae, if especially present along with budding yeast cells, they go more in favor of pathogen when compared to the normal commensal. Pseudohyphae. And next slide, I have a picture. You can see this is an electron microscopic picture of the Trichomonas trophocyte in the background. You can, which you have studied in your parasitic, or see the, you can remember that Trichomonas vaginalis, you don't have a cystic stage, only this beautiful trophocyte can be identified just by a saline mount. But careful observation, and again one more thing is transport of sample to the laboratory is very important. How fast you transport the sample, that so that you may not lose the motility or the organisms may not dry out. Since bacterial vaginosis, I told, is very common one and very important. Bacterial vaginosis identification, diagnosis clinically is one part. Laboratory diagnosis is another part that can be diagnosed by careful examination. That is called as Nugent scoring. Nugent scoring is one thing where your simple Gram staining slide can be very useful. So Gram stain smear of vaginal discharge, the patient usually complains of vaginal discharge. We have spoken about the malodor, how the odor is also altered vaginal flora, largely replaced by Gardnerella vaginalis and anaerobes. You can see normally lactobacilli are present. Vaginal pH is usually acidic, but in this case vaginal pH will be altered, that will become alkaline. That will in turn increase the growth of other microorganisms. Normal vaginal pH is protective, but once this pH is changed, it will increase the growth of organisms. So Nugent score, what we do in the Gram staining, your simple Gram staining as you have done in the laboratory, there you try to observe the different organisms. So decreased number of lactobacilli. Lactobacilli are Gram positive cross, which can be seen. Normal flora. Normal lactobacilli are decreased. Increased number of Gram variable pleomorphic cocobacillary forms. Increased number of Gram variable pleomorphic. Gram variable means some may look Gram positive, some may look Gram negative. So that is called as Gram variable. They are suggestive of Gardnerella vaginalis. Presence of some curved Gram negative bacilli, that is suggestive of Moblynthus, which is anaerobic bacteria. Presence of clue cells. This is very important. What are clue cells? Vaginal epithelial cells. Epithelial cells, you have seen, we have shown you the epithelial cells, large cells which are present. These epithelial cells with adherent bacteria, that is Gardnerella vaginalis, and absence of muscles. epithelial cells are there. To the epithelial cells, there are adherent bacteria, that is Gardnerella vaginalis. Those are called as glue cells. Based on this, we try to score. You can see here the table, 0 score. Lactobacillus is greater than 30, means still good number of lactobacillus are present. Gardnerella or bacteroids are 0. Mobilingus is also 0. So score is 0. That is the normal one. Whereas score 1, you can see here 1. Here lactobacilli count has decreased 5 to 30. Gardnerella bacteria less than 1. Mobilingus 1 to 5. 2, you can see lactobacilli are still decreased 1 to 4, whereas garden bacteria increase and mobilingus greater than 5. You can see third one, grade 3 less than 1. See, lactobacillus is almost less than 1, and you can see here 0 also. So here the Nugent score will be increased 3 and 4. So as the Nugent score increases, indicating that the patient has a serious infection, need to be treated at the earlier stages. Apart from that, gonorrhea, as I have already explained, you can see these are pus cells. In between the pus cells, you can see the small gram-negative cells, which are kidney shaped, which arranged in phase. This is Candida, as already explained, gram-positive budding yeast cells with pseudohyphae. These are hyphae, this stick-like one, which you can see pseudohyphae. Pseudohyphae present, indicating most of the time are pathogenic. That which are isolated from the human flora usually will be, and which are normal commensals will be, usually we don't see the culture. So for culture, you can see for culture different media. If it is a bacterial agent, you can see different, and most commonly we thought we have Neisseria gonorrhoeae is the most common organism, followed by other non-gonococcal organisms. So you can take chocolate agar and tire Martin media, both can be used for gonorrhea. Or if you have suspecting a Haemophilus ducrei, which requires some of the blood components for its growth, you can use chocolate agar, or you can use the special media which provides that special components of the blood. Apart from that, if you are suspecting Candida, then you can use Sabro's dextrose agar media or any other fungal agents, or tissue culture or McCoy or HeLa cell lines can be used for chlamydia, because chlamydia we need tissue culture techniques. We cannot grow without the tissues. Herpes also we require tissue culture. In such cases you can go, but most of the time culture is not advisable to these organisms, usually they are diagnosed serologically by other means. So depending upon the organism, you can decide what type of, so high degree of clinical suspicion is required, then only you can go for the diagnosis. Yes, serology again holds a very strong position for the transmission, for the diagnosis of sexually transmitted disease. Most commonly ELISA complement fixation test. Of course, now complement fixation tests are not commonly used. Apart from the ELISA, CLIA, chemiluminescence assays are the one which are now most commonly used. These, especially if you are speaking about bacterial agents like syphilis, we have VDRL1 mineral disease research laboratory test, that is, you have specific and non-specific tests. The big classification is there. In fact, these tests are more commonly used now for the diagnosis of syphilis when compared to your dark brown microscopy identification of the treponema, because these VDRL tests are trust now. Tolidine rate which is a modification of trust is a modification of VDRL or RPR test, which has a better sensitivity and easily visible test, which can be done within half an hour to 1 hour. So this test is also advisable not only for all the pregnant ladies or those who are willing to become pregnant or those who have some of the symptoms of this disease. They are also very routinely done in the blood bank to whenever they are transfusing the blood. So there are 5 tests which are done, of which VDRL is one for the identification of the syphilis. So herpes genitalis and all. HIV, yes, HIV is one more, and hepatitis B. This is one more 2 diseases which are also serological tests. Antigen and antibody detection are very important when compared to the other tests. Both HIV and hepatitis B still HB hepatitis virus antigen test is very important, whereas HIV antibody test and antigen, we have P24 antigen, both are useful. Skin test not routinely done. I've just put up spray test for chlamydia trachomatis. So bacterial vaginosis, another way identification. One is Nugent score, I have already explained. Apart from that, there are some chemical tests also which can be helpful for the identification. pH, I have already told, if pH is greater than 4.5, then you may suspect bacterial vaginosis due to the presence of amines, reduced production of lactate by lactobacilli. Because lactobacilli count only is decreased, so pH is also increased. Amide test is another one. Vaginal fluid plus 10% KOH. Vaginal fluid plus 10% KOH. You have fishy, that is rotten fish smell. You may ask me, already I have told that smell is very common, but still some people might not identify this smell. Aggravation of the smell can be done by addition of 10% KOH due to volatile amines present in the vaginal fluid. So molecular diagnosis of the genital warts can be done. Real-time multiplex PCR are there for HIV, hepatitis B, chlamydia trachomatis, Neisseria gonorrhea, HSV and palladium. Of course, for this, especially molecular diagnosis are well developed for viral organisms when compared to the other organisms. Anyhow, for HIV and hepatitis also, we have good serological tests. But when required, when doubt arises, then we can go for the molecular diagnosis, because it's a costly affair. We need to think about before we need to go to the diagnosis. Treatment, yes, once you identify the proper cause, then treatment you can go accordingly. Some of them, if they have moved on to the upper genital tract infection of the uterus and salpinges or ovary, that may require a long-term treatment, maybe up to 14 days or so, with a higher dose of antibiotics. See, the 3rd generation and 4th generation cephalosporins are good. Ceftriaxone along with a combination of azithromycin, which can cover both gram-positive and gram-negative. Apart from that, you may also, if you are suspecting an anaerobic organism, then you may need to give some drugs which can cover the anaerobic organisms also. Ceftriaxone will act against gonococcus, azithromycin against chlamydia trachomatis. Why these two? Why before you go into a diagnosis, these 2 drugs will be started if you get a laboratory report, because these 2 organisms are still the most common organisms causing sexually transmitted disease. Once you take the sample for the laboratory test, they may be started with the these prophylactic antibiotics, which are broad spectrum, which can cover both. Once you get a proper report, if these drugs are helpful in that cases, then you can go with that. If these drugs are not helpful, you can go with the drug which is sensitive, or else this broad spectrum antibiotic will be cover and help in the treatment of these patients. Both sexual partners treatment is required. So prevention of sexually transmitted diseases are very important. Educating is very important. Counseling of the patient and contraceptive choices, condom use, all these should be encouraged, then only it will be useful. More important is education. So prevention is always important when compared to the cure. So this is about your sexually transmitted disease. In the future classes, we will be discussing few more syndromes, so that will please correlate. Don't think these are not given in your textbooks. At the end of all your textbooks, which may be Ananta Narayan or your Baveja or whatever Apurva Shastri, all the books give at the end these syndromes, and these syndromes nowadays have been come as a long question. You just need to correlate the things. See, you need to completely describe about the syndrome. Later, if you feel that you cannot describe laboratory diagnosis in general, at least one major organism you try to describe. For example, describe sexually transmitted. So all the clinical features you describe, what are the bacterial, viral, parasitic agents, and in detail you try to explain about Treponema pallidum, that is syphilis, more common organism. That will help you to give your more marks scoring. Okay, thank you.